There's been a few things happening. Here in the middle of fall. Been a busy week. Riggo's been on the road. We got a lot to catch up on. Here's Riggo.
All righty, thank you, Todd.
So you're down in San Antonio at a special event.
Yes, I was down there at the Special Forces Charitable Trust, which is a trust that helps out, the veterans that go over in Special Forces that do stuff.
Green Berets.
Do stuff that lazy farts like me don't want to do or are too scared to do.
I'd say
Green Beret.
99.5% of us fall into that category.
I didn't feel like I was alone. I didn't feel like I was some kind of a minority. I kind of felt I'm part of the majority. But I met some really, really nice people down there. And the one thing that really didn't confuse me, that I was shocked, that I figured I would go down there. I almost didn't shoot because I've got some really bad, I think it's arthritis in this joint here, right there. So when you shoot, there's a trigger guard, obviously, on the trigger. Well, that trigger guard comes back and slams this knuckle here, which forces it back and just dry. Because I can't close my hand, I can't make a fist. This thing pops. But when it gets forced back, it hurts like hell. So I had to use it for my trigger finger. So I was somewhat handicapped. I mean,
you probably haven't shot since we were down with the Marines in Quantico, right?
Exactly, but we didn't shoot shotguns. We were shooting rifles. So we were shooting shotguns, and I haven't shot in sporting. I have not shot sporting clays in, Todd, I can't remember, 20 years, 25
Oh, wow.
years. And I was never very good at it. But I surprised me. I mean, this is what I'm saying. I kept telling people, I kept asking guys that shot, I said, I got a feeling that they can make this course a lot harder if they want to. And they said, oh yeah, they could do that. They can speed everything up. And I'm thinking, well, they kind of keep it kind of slow. I don't know if slow is the right word, but to keep so guys aren't, if you go up there and you hit one bird out of 10, because you'd shoot 10 rounds at every station, you shot 12 stations, so you shot. But actually, then sometimes it would go down to eight rounds at a station. So it turned out that you shot, I'm guessing, 100 rounds total.
So this is basically a friendly competition to raise money.
Yeah, and they had some prizes. They gave away a bunch of stuff. I think the biggest prize for the overall, it was actually for the overall person who raised the most money individually, and they gave a Ford Bronco, which that person, then all the active military guys that were there, on the teams that were, I think there was one active military fella on every team that shot. The guy that won it, who was actually somebody who was a donor and helped raise money, he put all they had a thing with what do you call it, marbles, and everybody go up and grab a marble until they got the marble that was the right color, and they won the Ford Bronco. So he gave that away. Yeah, it was pretty good.
That's big. Hey, let's go to the videotape 101.
All
right, John. So walk us through here what we're looking at.
Well, you can see right here. This is a station, and these are the cubicles that you shoot out of. I don't know their exact terminology because I haven't shot sporting clays. And then that's me with one of my team members. We were the good, bad, and the lucky, which didn't really turn out to be that way. This is the other group that shot ahead of us. They were deemed the best dressed group down there, which I got to admit, I kind of like their outfit. Mine was fine, but on a day like it was down in San Antonio, white was the color to go with, I would say.
Pretty warm down there?
Yeah, it was. It was around 85, 90 degrees. And actually the day before, it was actually not that bad, but the day before was like 92 degrees down or something like that.
My goodness. So on this next slide here, I want to know which wrestler this is.
I can't tell.
Is that Stone Cold Steve Austin? Is that Stone Cold?
It wasn't Stone Cold. It wasn't. I don't know exactly who that was, Todd. But I don't know who that other guy is with the orange hat on. But, man, what a slob he looks like. He's got to hit the gym. I mean, look at that belly hanging out. Ooh. Yeah, none of these photographs of me are flattering, so let's just keep it moving, get through this as quick as we can. I would be much obliged.
A good time.
Okay. Yeah, it was.
Was had
it was.
by all for a great cause.
It was. And the first night we got down there, they had a little banquet down at the Alamo, and I'd never seen the Alamo before, up close and personal.
Oh, wow. How cool was that?
That was pretty cool.
Isn't it amazing how small and tiny it is?
Yeah, it was. We didn't have time. I mean, I didn't have time to take a tour or anything like that, but at least I got to see it and be right down there in front of it. You put yourself in that Alamo, almost 200 years ago, something like that, not quite, but, the stuff going down. And I thought, in a way, having the Special Forces there, it was a great place to have them, the tie between the people that went down at the Alamo and what they do.
It really wasn't like a lot of the early skirmishes and wars. It wasn't a lot of people. It wasn't tens of thousands.
Well, but
it was hundreds.
Well, yeah, of the people in the Alamo, but I think there were thousands of
Santa Anna had a pretty good. He had a pretty good force.
He had some guys on his side. Yeah, I was going to say I spoke and introduced all the special forces that were present and asked them to stand and their spouses. But what was interesting is that they had a guy that I think there's a poem called Old Glory, and they had somebody. Oh, I know. His last name Van Morris, not to be confused with Van Morrison, but his name is Van Morris, and he basically recited the poem. And, they had music behind underneath what he was doing. And I'm going to tell you, Todd, the guy was just unbelievable.
Goosebumps?
Yeah, it was like knot in the throat, the whole deal. And, and as I think about it, and really, after he got done, I got up and had to speak, not immediately after him, but 2 or 3 down the line, maybe 2 down the line. It was over with. It was over with.
You got to follow that.
You cannot follow that.
Ladies and gentlemen, John Riggins.
I told him, I said, well, okay, enough of my Shecky Green. And then Lisa Marie goes, who's Shecky Green? And I said,
Lisa Marie didn't know Shecky Green is?
And nobody, I'm thinking, well, everybody's too young to know who Shecky Green was.
I even know Shecky.
So, anyway, well, everything is judged by what Lisa Marie, by her standards. Nobody else's really. It doesn't count. If the audience loved it, but she didn't get it, she'd go, I don't know who Shecky Green is. But, I don't care.
Not saying a word.
They shouldn't have been laughing because I don't know anything. But anyway, so I had to follow this guy, and it was like I had to like strip gears to downshift because I was going to come out. Yeah, I was going to almost come out like Big Tooth Tony Robbins. Okay, yeah, let's go.
You're going to get fired up.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go. I'm gonna awaken the giant within. Yeah, we're gonna have a date with destiny.
You didn't walk on fire or anything, Riggo?
No firewalking. No firewalking. Tony claims that he gets about 2% to get burns from firewalking. That's what Tony claims. Occasionally, he's got to send somebody to the hospital. All right, Tony, however you're doing it. I guess Tony uses, I think he uses religion in his act.
Whatever it takes, man. Whatever it gets you through the night.
Let's just say Tony is worth well into the $100 million, so somebody's buying it. Somebody's buying it. But, yeah, all in all, I had a great trip, and it was fun.
Outstanding.
So we got some business to deal with. Not really.
There's been a little bit of news since the last time we got together here on TJRS, and there's so much to unpack here and drill down on, Riggo, and the timeline is fascinating. So we're not going to dwell too much on the sorry performance against the Saints and it was a sorry performance across the board to a very average to weak Saints offense.
I would say so.
And I mean their rankings, and they are who they are statistically. And Jameis Winston
is finding a new career where he was just fumbling all over himself. Where in Tampa? Isn't that where he originally was?
Yeah.
Was it Jacksonville? Tampa, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They drafted him first round.
And so the defense, once again, they pooped their pants, and everybody's now okay. After 5 games, you are who you are. So unless there's major corrections, you got the finger pointing starting now. Jack Del Rio, now you're starting to look like this at the coaches. Mm-hmm. Coach Rivera's come out with some questionable remarks. And the one thing that blew me away in one of his weekly media appearances, I think it was yesterday, and saying, kind of the expectations are too high. Almost we wish we hadn't gone 7-9 and won the NFC East last year because this is a rebuilding process. Not what the fans want to hear.
Not really. Not after 20 years.
No.
Not after they think you got to. Know, nothing against Coach Rivera, but I mean, in all honesty, I guess I don't remember because I didn't. It wasn't like I was reading the paper every day about what's going on out at the park. I mean, most of the stuff you read about what was going on at the park was stuff that was for the tabloids, that type of stuff, which had to do with sexual harassment and those type of things.
Oh, well, let's forget the DEA raid.
Then we got you're right. Forget about. I mean, there's so much
more authorities involved. We've got more authorities involved with this organization.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah. That's all I can tell you. How can one organization hog all the bad news? I don't know how they do it. But I would think. I mean, I think it's a situation where you're not going to say we're not that good. I don't think. I mean, in other words, in the beginning, and say, look, our defense is young. We've got what we think, and they still feel like we've got what we think is a lot of talent over there. Our offense is a work in progress, so it's going to be what it is. I mean, I don't see how and that's not his fault. I'll be honest with you, in my opinion, about the expectations. I don't know who the press and or the fans. This team was 7-9, but they could have just as easily been 6-10, maybe 5-11. That wasn't a particularly powerhouse football team you saw last year, not in my opinion. You had the poor guy Alex Smith was out there hobbling around trying to try to get things. Then you get Heineke comes in and saves their bacon in that first playoff game. But they weren't, and you win the NFC East. Well, who cares? That at
you
7-9,
were 7-9. You were putrid.
Exactly. So for people, I mean, Coach Rivera is right. The part that's disappointing, and the part that he probably should try to explain, which I think that he doesn't have an answer for, because he's a defensive coach. And he's got a defensive coordinator who also has been a head coach and been a defensive coordinator, for a long time in the NFL and played at a very high level. He's got all the talent that he's referring to, and yet the defense is the weakest part of the team. Weakest part of the team. That's hard to believe. When they were actually supposed to be the show ponies and the offense was going to struggle, and now you finally see the offense kind of starting to play to the level that what they are.
Starting with Mr. Heineke.
Yeah, exactly. You go as Mr. Heineke goes. Now all of a sudden I'm thinking, they got Fitzmagic. Hey, Fitz, we got to do some of that hip. I mean, we could give you want an artificial hip. We got to have you back in there. But we think we can get you up because when they give an operation like that, they got you up and walking the next day. So I'm thinking if they do it on a Monday, he might be able to jog on Saturday and probably play on Sunday. No, on a serious note, I think you just have to understand, and I'm completely sympathetic with the coach, that they are a work in progress. And shame on people for thinking this team was better than it was. I mean, at this point, and you always have the possibility that that they'll release the pigeons and everything's going to be groovy. But the reality is, you really just don't know at what point everything will click. I mean, go back to Coach Gibbs's first year here. 5 straight losses, then you win a game in Chicago, then I think maybe lose a game in Miami, I can't remember, but played Miami tough, who had a good football team that year, lose it, but somehow did that team finish 8-8? I think it did.
I think that's correct.
So after losing the first 5, so all of a sudden you saw there was a shift there. You never know when it's going to happen, but it's like you got to be cautiously optimistic, very, very cautious, and you don't really expect it to happen. I just don't see him getting there with Taylor Heineke as the quarterback at this point. I mean, what it seems to me, unless he catches fire, but he made some big blunders, like you said, on Sunday, and the Sunday before that, he's laying receivers out there to get chop looked. So they've got a long way to go. Bottom line.
I get what you're saying, and.
But you don't agree with it. That's cool.
Well, I think the point being is the franchise sold NFC East champions,
yeah,
NFC
exactly.
East
That's
champions,
their fault.
Taylor Heineke. They go too far way.
But they sold. You're 100% right, and this doesn't fall on Rivera's shoulders. I don't ever remember seeing him going, "Hey, we were 7-9, and won the NFC East." You can't get behind that. I mean, he's been around. He ain't that kind of guy. But the marketing people that want to sell you something,
want to get your butts back in the stadium, want you consuming their products, want you watching the games,
right. In that respect, you're right. It is the team's fault. And when I say the team, I mean the organization. They're the one that ballyhooed and got all they could out of this NFC East champs. I remember the first year.
And the legend of Taylor Heineke versus allowing to actually see what you got without leading off too much, because his jersey could be the way of RG3. The history of quarterbacks, we know the bargain bin, Dwayne Haskins. We all hope that's not the case. But we're kind of all understanding at 28 years of age why he was a backup quarterback in the Arena Football League a year ago.
Yeah.
Or 16
Well, you bring up a great point, I think. It's something I hadn't thought of when I say it wasn't their fault. It is their fault, not necessarily Rivera's fault. It's the organization's fault for making such a play out of this NFC East champ stuff, because they did the same thing about, 6-7 years ago, when they made the playoffs and they printed up these T-shirts. Right. They had a flag flying out there that said NFC East.
Yes.
Champ.
Oh.
How many? What is it? There's 3 divisions in each conference. 3 divisions? No, 4 divisions.
4.
8 total divisions, right? So you're one. That to me, you've won nothing.
Right.
Nothing. You've beaten out 3 other teams. 3 other teams.
Somebody had to win it.
And that's the kind of the way that was to make anything out of it. But let's face it, you've always said this, Todd. Just follow the money. It's all about money. So let's be serious.
Follow you, and we saw with our own eyes. We weren't convinced about this defense last year. And everybody else is, oh, they're only going to get better and more stout, and we're awesome in this and that. Versus, no, you actually weren't. You really follow the game and see what was happening here. Versus stats that were being padded and all this, and that's where the finger pointing is really starting. Now all of a sudden, Jack Del Rio doesn't know his head from his ass. Ron Rivera, the defensive genius, he's like, hey, and he got real snippy in his press conference on Monday talking to the press, and they were saying, well, are you going to start exerting more control and making the calls on defense? And he was not happy with the question. No. So the finger pointing that has started, we've seen this too many times. And, it's teed up now that Del Rio will be the first one to, hey, we're going to need your walking papers.
We're going to have to go in another direction.
Yeah, because clearly
eventually
the players, there's chaos there. Their number one draft pick, Jamin Davis, he's barely playing. They are hiding him. And you never hear his name called, not a positive way.
Right.
He's barely.
That's stunning.
I checked to see how many plays.
Stunning because I'm kind of, I don't read every press clipping that comes out, and it kind of slips past me that he's even on the team, and he's the first-round pick.
Another first-rounder.
Gives you immediate help.
Right, because their linebacking core was soft. They knew they had problem in the secondary, and here was a guy that could run. Only started 12 college football games. Is a late bloomer.
Where have we seen that before?
Yeah.
Didn't he have a quarterback?
And they've got this, and they kept on their active man roster and this gets skirted under too. The kid out of Chile, Reyes, the tight end, who has never really played organized football.
Right.
So I didn't realize in the NFL they have an on-the-job training program for you to be on the active roster, and yet you've never even played. So I applaud them because something's happening there, taking up a valuable roster spot. I think he was active for the first time this past weekend.
So what's the point behind that?
You got me. But they were, John.
Is
John,
the NFL becoming like ESPN?
Yes, the puff pieces on his first Chilean to ever play in the NFL and start in the NFL. You were bombarded on social media and interviews with him, and
What's that about,
has
Todd?
Nothing to
Getting
do.
fans in Chile to watch NFL football.
It's all part of more of their initiatives to broaden the horizons of the game.
Global product.
But
appeal to more countries.
It's just fascinating. So here we sit after 5 games.
What I tell you, Todd, this is show business. Make no mistake about it. Butts in the seats.
And you knew that 50 years ago.
Butts in the seats. I learned it after my second year with the New York Jets. It was all show business because Joe was a star with a cast of thousands.
So fast forward. Now you got Kansas City Chiefs coming to town, and they're a little pissed off.
And they're licking wounds.
Because they are underperforming. They are getting excoriated by the national media and everybody else saying, wow, we were going to crown their ass. And remember, they were going to be a dynasty, and they're a dynasty of one. They've won one. Their defense is not getting it done. And the offense has been sputtering a little bit here and there, Mahomes. So this is not a good place for the Washington football team. Very unenviable position here at home.
I would say.
Before you go back out on the road.
That's the only advantage they have, I think, playing at home against the Chiefs. And the Chiefs need this win. This is like from their perspective, for their own mental outlook or their mental. I don't want to say mental health, but in other words, for them to feel good about themselves, they need to win this game. Washington is a struggling football team. Chiefs come here, and you can almost make the argument they're not on the same level with Washington, but at the same time, they're a struggling franchise because of what? They've won, what are they, 2-3? They're 2-3. So the same thing as Washington, but to come in here and lose to Washington, so I got to believe Andy Reid will have his guys. You're going to get a good shot of the Kansas City
If they lose, they're 2-4, and then everybody's going to say, "Okay, wow, we learned a lot about them.
Can only do so
they're
much.
not good for it."
Correct.
And I will tell you this: when you talk about it being at home, so Friday and Saturday, hit a few watering holes around here, some of the local flavors. Meet people clearly. Saints gear everywhere. I sat there and drank with a bunch of New Orleans Saints fans on Saturday. when they scored on TV, it was stunning. It was stunning, the roar from the crowd. It felt like you were in New Orleans. How many fans? And Kansas City is probably going to have the same thing. But the opposing teams are coming into FedEx Field, and they are
taking it over again.
100%.
And did you sent me something? What was it? It would have been the game before Sunday. Or, no, it wasn't Sunday's game where they had lowest attendance in the NFL. Second lowest attendance.
Through 4 games, they had the second lowest attendance and number one in available capacity that was open. So clearly, the fans are fed up after a long time. And so, what do you think the line is this week? I'm a little surprised by this line.
I'm going to go 7.5.
Kansas City favored by 7. And
how do I do that, Todd?
Yeah, I know. You're pretty good.
But it's just strictly pull it out of my rear end.
We never have you actually make the picks, so that's a good thing. You're the handicap. You're not going to be the set the line guy.
Yeah, but it's just strictly. Here, I got it right here. 7.5. What do you got?
So, let's move along then, because the greater picture, and for the fans, and what this football team used to be, our public utility that the entire community used to rally around, and what you and your teammates accomplished and gave us seems so ancient and far ago. So here we are, I believe, it's 22nd year of this ownership. And with the bombshell...
May I cut in just a second?
Sure.
As I was thinking here, it goes like this. There was a 30-year run where in 1971, the team started a metamorphosis towards winning. And then it went through, so-so really, through up until 1980. But 80 was a major backslide from the beginning, because I think those were all winning records up until 1980 when they went 6-10. I think I played on an 8-8. I think in 79 or 78. It was 78. 79 was 10-6. But anyway, I was going to say, and then obviously that decade of the 80s and then the early 90s, this team was in 4 Super Bowls, and
we were the New England Patriots of that decade.
Was it 4 Super Bowls? No, 3.
4.
Oh, it's 4. It was
82
4.
to 92.
Right.
That decade.
Exactly. And now, for the last 20 years, so you had a 30-year run. I don't know what you'd call the fans. In other words, the bulk of the fans now of the football team, how old are they? Because I got to believe the people that watched the glory years from, say, 1970 to 1992 or whatever, I don't think they probably pay a whole lot of attention. Probably a few here and there, but most of them are kind of sick and fed up with seeing the same stuff for 20 straight years.
Well, clearly,
so it's constantly marketing new people.
No
you got to get
question.
new people in the tent.
Well, in a lot of the appearances and signings and things that we do with you from a business perspective, along with Joe Jacoby and Dexter Manley, and that clearly the fans that were the best customers back in the days that are older now, anybody that's 55 and older or whatever, they're I think they're done with this franchise. Their children had a little taste because they know what it meant to their parents.
Right.
And
they get a history lesson a little bit about when I was watching that this team was doing this.
And now their kids, who, it's the Jim Zorn, it's the Chris Cooley, Santana Moss, Clinton Portis area, whatever, which didn't accomplish anything.
No.
Nothing. No level of success. I think they made the playoff one time.
They won one playoff game, didn't they?
Yeah, I think one playoff over that entire time.
They beat Tampa Bay in a playoff game?
Sounds about right.
It's like a wild card, and then I think did that team go to Seattle?
Yeah, maybe that was
and
it.
Got beat. No, they got beat in Seattle, I thought.
Bottom line is they didn't do diddly squat, okay?
You just stole a term from the guy that used to coach here. That was
Joe.
That was Coach Joe's favorite
diddly
line.
Squat?
Yeah, then diddly squat.
Now,
I've always meant that. What does diddly squat mean? I think I know.
Means he's a good community guy.
Yeah.
Can play teams.
So I always agree with him, though, when something messed up. It was his fault. Because he'd always say, it's not you, it's me.
Hey, it's me.
It's me. I'm going, that's right, Joe. It was you.
Well, it seems like a long time ago since we had old Coach Joe in the halcyon days. And I know you've been traveling deep in the heart of Texas here and didn't read and consume a lot of the news. You have focused on some stuff. And so I know you now have caught up with the latest reports and what's happened around with John Gruden, the Washington football team, and the impact of all of this chaos.
Yeah, all I'm going to say on this, Todd, is that it's insidious. And that goes to individuals and it goes to corporations at the very top and the subsidiaries of the major corporation. Very insidious, very disappointing. Riggo out.